Welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center, and we're going to be talking about creating balance in our health. Now, I love this conversation because the one thing that I recognize that whether I'm looking at Dorland's Medical Dictionary or whether I'm looking at Webster's Dictionary, I realize that health is made up of more than just one thing. In fact, you probably have seen guys. You know, they say, well, listen, I'm healthy because, and they list one thing. You know, I'm healthy because I go to the gym every single day. They do that one thing. In fact, there's a guy. His name was Jim Fix. He was responsible for the running craze. And he was one of those individuals that he thought he could eat anything that he wanted to because he was a runner. He just kept on running. That's what he did. Well, he came to understand that, well, being out of balance like that led to distinct problems, particularly the cardiovascular episode that he eventually had that created, well, this little thing called death, all right? So we realized that, you know, that one thing. For some people, it's, I eat a balanced diet. That's what I focus on. I do that one thing really well, but I don't exercise. I don't do anything else. All I do is I eat that balanced diet. Well, that's wonderful because we are what we eat. We do fuel our body that way, and it becomes who we are. But in the same respect, there's so much more to our level of health than just how we feed and how we fuel our body. In fact, we recognize as chiropractors that we are greater than the sum of our parts, and that in turn, to have and achieve health, it requires balance. Now, I'm going to tell you as we go through this workshop, for many of you, this is going to be a self-test. It's going to be that level of awareness that you have. So I'm going to tell you now, what I really want you to do is just sit back, listen to the conversation. Don't try and write everything down. In fact, in the comment section, I want you to ask for the information, the questionnaires. There's going to be a couple of them, and they're going to tug at you. They're going to be those things that you're going to sit back and you're going to think about these different categories that really we're going to breeze through. We're going to give the helicopter version. We're going to give that big overlook. We're not going to dive deep into any one of these things, but it's those questions that you're going to sit back and you're going to ponder in the quietness of your own home, and you're going to ask yourself, so how am I really doing? You know, if I have to put myself on a 0 to 10 scale, you know, how is it that I grade myself? Like anything, you know yourself better than anybody else. But oftentimes, if we don't think about these things, we don't recognize how out of balance we actually are. So I'm going to encourage you, in the comment section, just type in questions. You type in questions, Shannon, myself, we're going to make sure that we send out those different boards to you. We'll make sure that you get them so that you can walk through and you can answer these questions yourself. But here's the thing. Our health is a matter of taking care of our body and understanding the interconnections of the different aspects of life. You know, we are more than who we are at work. We're more than who we are at, you know, in our home life. So in turn, you know, as we talk about creating balance, well, we have to look at, you know, a big picture, the landscape of things. And I absolutely love this picture because, you know, it talks about nature, it talks about how we hydrate, how we fuel our body, the exercises, so many different things. So sit back, get ready. We're going to dig into things. In fact, before we proceed, you want to make sure that you do your part, which is like this video. Remember, type in that word question. I'll make sure that we get that information to you. And finally, make sure that you share this. Share it with your friends. Because you know what? We all need that opportunity of recognizing, you know, how are we doing? And giving ourselves the opportunity of understanding, you know, what does it take to start having this balanced life? Now, I love these wheels. I love these balance wheels where we get to look at this wellness wheel and recognize that, we could probably break our wellness wheel down into different components, but we're going to start with this particular category selection. And the wellness wheel helps us to see how balanced are we. And in turn, as we dig into this, well, we're going to talk about the physical stuff, the physical wellness. It includes exercise, it includes nutrition. It's how we feed and fuel our body. It's not just that, but it's also the integration of things like the physical, the mental, the spiritual aspects of who we are. And, as we start to look at these questions, and please, as you're listening to this, I know that the tendency is we want to dig into these different things and just isolate and say, oh, I am just not doing that well. I want you to pause. Right now, I just want you to listen. Because in the end, I realize that, as you're sitting back and you really think about this, there are some things you are probably doing really, really well. Well, there's other things that you need to address. You need to have some of those private moments to sit back and say, hey, listen, I just simply need to do better. So when we talk about these, do you listen to the feelings of hunger and eat on a regular basis? I was just listening to a podcast. There's a difference between your body aching and crying for nutrients and that little bit of uncomfortableness when you know that you need to eat. Now, this is a big thing because it's also training our body not to overfill or not to overfeed ourselves, because that too is an uncomfortableness that leads to an imbalance. Likewise, do you stay hydrated throughout the course of the day? Are you listening to your body when it tells you, hey, listen, you're already dehydrated? If you're feeling that thirst level, recognize you're behind the 8 ball. You should be sipping on water throughout the course of the day. And, for those of you who have never heard one of our workshops, listen, it's a really easy formula to figure out what you need. Take your body weight, divide it in half, put that into ounces. That's how much water you should be drinking throughout the course of the day. Now, for most of us, well, it's at least a gallon. For some of us, it's going to be a bit more. For others, it might be a little bit less. But that gallon level is a great place to start. Likewise, you want to make sure that you're staying with a consistent sleep schedule. Oh, if there is not one easy way to create an imbalance in the course of our day, an imbalance in our health, it's to not to get sleep. And I'm going to tell you, as I learned myself, hey, listen, us preparing for our night's sleep starts at the moment we wake up first thing in the morning. And there are components of that you'll learn about over time that speak to how you're feeding, how you're fueling your body, the things that you put into it, what you put onto it. So there's a lot that goes into this conversation. But ask yourself, are you getting the appropriate amount of sleep? Are you getting it at the right time? Are you staying in a rhythm that needs to happen in order to make sure that you're in rhythm with what nature is commanding? And then finally, ask yourself, are you waking up feeling refreshed, or are you waking up feeling like you're drained and tired? Hey, listen, these are simple questions, but I want you to answer them yourself. I want you to look at this. In fact, we're going to ask you, just as you're going through this process, to consider some of the things that you want to change and maybe have a conversation with us about it in order to help change some of these answers. And when you come back and you revisit this topic and you grade yourself in 90 days, that you're able to see that as you engage and you apply this knowledge, that you get to see the transformation in how your body is functioning and how you're feeling and how you're engaging in life. So nutrition, absolutely. One of those big things, probably one of those things that's easier than you expect in order to create those changes. Are you eating a variety of foods? Or does your diet, when you do a diet diary, is your diet exactly the same every single day? Or are you eating the colors of the rainbow? Do you have a variety of different things that you're bringing into the system to make sure that you're getting the right micronutrients? not having, too much protein, not enough fats in your diet. So, you have to ask yourself, are you eating slow and mindfully? Or are you just gorging and eating way too fast? When we look at things like, making our meals, make sure that you have enough protein, calcium, fats in your diet. I mention that because we have been so trained to believe, hey, fats are bad for you. We need zero fats. Oh, shame on us. We've labeled something that has been given to us that we absolutely need in every part of our body. If we're not consuming those fats, well then listen, your brain is just not getting the fuel that it needs. It's not getting what it desires in order to function well. See, the sad thing is that we've been told a lie, and if we listen to those lies that are spoken to us over and over again, we make bad choices. Your brain, just like mine, is 80% fat and water. Go figure. If you don't replenish it, how do you expect it to function? Research has demonstrated, the outcome studies are there. Listen, you provide omega-3 fatty acids to somebody who has got, brain function issues, attention deficit, hyperactivity, positive changes, good outcome, lowering how the brain functions, and getting it to the place where it's calming it down so that it's able to communicate properly. Sadly, we need to look at some of those old lies that we've been taught. And then finally, you have to ensure that those proper fatty acids are there. Yeah, they're not just good for your brain function, they're good for your heart health. We need those fatty acids in order to drive our heart health, our immune system function. So important. And when it comes to moving the body, listen, this seems so simple. I mean, we all have these things on our wrist and we count the number of steps and it's like, oh, that's wonderful. Oh, don't get me wrong, motion is absolutely the key to success as far as the function of the body. I mean, if we look at how we're created and designed, every part of our body demonstrates we're supposed to be in motion. But are you getting the right type? Are you scheduling time to make sure that you're getting up, you're exercising, you're moving this body? Or are you just simply rolling right into your workday? See, we need to have that time where we're able to raise up the intensity level to make sure that we're stretching the muscles, that we're building the muscle strength, that we're actually engaging and expanding the cardiovascular ability to take on the load that it needs to stay nice and healthy. Because here's the thing, in the end, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And as we get older, obviously everything slows down just a little bit. So we have to constantly be in that battle of maintaining balance within our musculoskeletal system. In fact, you need to make sure that you're taking the stairs, using long walks, making sure that you're increasing the intensity at times and moving just a little bit more quickly to expand the ability for you to have, better lung function, better cardiovascular intensity. We need those things. In fact, if you didn't hear my workshop last week on Wolff's Law, it's also one of those things that helps to use Wolff's Law to build up bone density. If you're concerned about osteoporosis, if you're concerned about bone density, you want to go back to the workshop on Wolff's Law and listen to that. It's a law of nature. So, stretching, so important. Improves your range of motion. It also improves your circulation. We sort of forget about this. It's like, yoga really doesn't do a whole lot. It just calms you down. Yes, it does calm you down. Yes, there's a level of peace that comes with this process. But in the same respect, it also increases circulation through those tissues. There's part of our tissues in our body that require that stretch in order to allow them to engage properly, largely because of what you and I do on a daily basis. Sometimes we sit too much, sometimes we lay around too much. Sometimes we need to change the posture in our spine, and it requires stretching different tissues. So stretching is one of those good things that our body needs in order to engage tissues properly so that we're functioning at a better level. Make sure you take the time to develop a stretching program that works for you. We want to make sure that whatever weight or bands that we use are within the proper guidelines for each and every one of us. Because here's the thing, you're different than me. What it takes to stretch my body might be way too much to stretch yours, and vice versa. So, like anything, whether we're talking about exercise or stretching, we want to be mindful that we're all individuals. That in turn, we need to make sure that our choices are right for us, and we're not adopting something that was sold for the masses. Because you know what? We're all individuals. No two one of us is exactly the same, and what works for me might not work for you in the end. Now, we talked about sleep before, and I told you we were doing a helicopter view. I know that we can spend an entire day, hours and hours on each one of these topics. We could dive deep into this, but you know what? I just wanted to give you that nice overview of some of these things. Now, I've heard before, you know what? Sleep is overrated. You can sleep when you're dead, okay? There's going to be plenty of time for that during the dirt nap. Not the case. Because here's the thing. Sleep is one of those things that allows our body the opportunity of rebuilding. And I'm sorry, you're going to forgive me. You're nothing special. Your body is exactly like everybody else's. It goes through a process of breakdown and repair. As we go through the day, I don't care what you call work, doesn't matter. I don't care whether you call it, work, cleaning around the house care, it doesn't matter. As we're awake, we're breaking our body down. As we're awake, we're using resources. See, when we sleep at night, that's when we get to rejuvenate, rebuild. If we're not getting sleep, you're going to forgive me, but your body doesn't care. You continue to break down. In fact, if you're not getting sleep at the right time, guess what? It's not a chiropractic thing. These individuals, they're called actuarials. You can go argue with them, okay? Because they're going to tell you, you don't get sleep at the right time, your life expectancy is 30% less. So round about the time somebody tells you, hey, listen, you know what? You don't need to sleep. You can stay up until 11, 12, 1, 2 in the morning. It's okay. As long as you show up for work on time, we're good. Not the case. There are so many studies out that demonstrate that when your circadian rhythm is broken, all of the chronic disease process that come with that, all of the cognitive issues, the brain, the balance that you have as far as the thought process, that it gets diminished sooner rather than later. Now, does any of us really want to sign up for not being able to focus and concentrate, not being able to learn as quickly? The answer is no. In fact, the problem is that we're not telling our children no. I know children who are staying up until 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning and trying to function in school the next day. How is it that we could possibly expect a good outcome from their education if we're setting them up for failure? Not the case. Listen, we need to make sure that we're getting in the right place. We're getting to bed at the right time. We need to make sure that we're setting ourselves up by the things that we're consuming, that we're eating, that we're drinking. We need to make sure that we keep our bedroom free of electronics as much as possible, because those things affect the brain waves and how we're able to shut our brain down at night. These are things we've seen the research on. We know what the outcome is. But if we want better balance in life, maybe it's one of these things that you need to attack. Because, unfortunately, whether we're talking about exercise or diet, whether we're talking about sleep or stretching, anytime we introduce stress into the body, it damages the system. It throws the body out of balance. I just had a patient in the other day, and we were talking about the bizarre nature of muscle testing. Now you have to understand this patient's a strong individual. Muscle tested him. After I adjusted his shoulder, strength went right back to where it was supposed to be. And he goes, it just amazes me that. I said, well, let's watch this. And I created just the tiniest amount of stress by dropping his chin down. Him looking down just about 10 degrees. Not much, just a little bit. Just flex the neck. The immediate change in the muscle strength, because of the stress that was put into this master system of his body. See, the problem is that your body doesn't care. Doesn't care whether it's a mechanical stress, a mental stress, an emotional stress, whether it is a stress because of toxins that you've been exposed to or that you've taken into your body willfully. Your body doesn't care. All it knows is that stress is going to throw off the balance of things. And listen, again, it's been demonstrated out so many times, over and over again, how, individuals that get exposed to different chemicals, the hormonal imbalances that get created, individuals who, start taking shakes and different drinks, and all of a sudden their hair starts getting thin. Their hair starts falling out. Oh, I'm sorry. Alcohols and caffeines, as they affect your cortisol levels, that hormone in your body that causes you to start packing on additional levels of fat. See, when we kid ourselves and we lie to ourselves that, oh no, I can, and it's not going to have an effect, yeah, we're believing the lies that have been marketed to us. We recognize the more balanced we are, the more responsible we're going to be for the choices that we make. So I'm going to ask you, start looking at those check boxes. Start looking at those things, and in turn, I want you to do your own self-test. I want you to rate yourself, including how is it that you're maintaining your spinal health? Because when we talk about communication, when we talk about balance, the one thing I know is we can have a great diet. We can eat well, but if our spine is broken, we're not able to break the food down. If our spine's broken down, subluxations in different areas, we can't absorb nutrients the way we're supposed to. Oh, I'm sorry. It's really easy to focus and concentrate when you have a migraine headache. How well can you sleep if you're low back, if you have shooting pain going down your sciatic nerve? See, all of these things, in the end, lead to a very balanced life. And so many of us have never gone through the process of just testing ourselves out. Testing ourselves out to determine what we need to work on. As I introduced, I want you to ask for those questionnaires. I want you to ask for this information. I want you to share it with us with your friends. See, in the end, my job is not to just deliver answers to you. It's not to just simply give you solutions. Because quite honestly, all the solutions in the world are not going to help you if we're not focused and know the hierarchy of the problems that we need to solve. So I'm going to ask you to do that one thing that's probably really uncomfortable for some of you. It's to share. Tag somebody that you know who's struggling. Maybe with one of the things that we talked about. Tag an individual that you know isn't living that vibrant life because they're so broken that they need some place to start, which is just simply to ask themselves the question, what do I need to work on first? And here's the thing. In the end, by sharing, we don't know how far-reaching it's going to be. We don't know who's going to be listening to this information and benefiting from it. But what we do know is that nobody has that opportunity unless you do your part in sharing the information. In turn, that's my one big ask of you. Take on that responsibility. Make sure that your friends, your family, knows what you know about creating that balance in their health. by simply sharing. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center.